One, two, three. Harold and Brad, Windy City filmmakers. Harold and Brad, Windy City filmmakers. Harold and Brad. Da, 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 da. What's going on, y'all? Brad Stevens here for another edition of the Harold and Brad Windy City Filmmakers Podcast. HD, what's going on, brother?
What's up, B? Welcome back, homie.
I know, it's been a minute. Yeah.
A long minute.
Hey, we have a very special guest in the house. The super talented actor, administrator, educator, Adia. Alli is with us. What's going on?
Hey, good to see you all.
Welcome to the show. Glad to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So we always start off by asking people two questions. What's your connection to Chicago, and what kind of art do you create?
I love that. My connection to Chicago is through family, actually. One of my favorite uncles lives in Joliet, Plainfield, just outside the city. And I knew after graduating from Michigan State that I wanted to come to Chicago to be close to family, but also to pursue my different interests within theater. So Chicago has always been a second home to me. I'm a Midwest girly, truly at heart.
Nice.
And the type of work I create or like to create typically centers Black women always and immigrant experiences, work that really develops empathy for the nuanced experience of people that we may not always consider. So that's like the type of work I like to work on, to create, and hope to continue to create.
Are you from Detroit originally?
Yes, I actually was born in Nigeria. So my family is Nigerian. I came over as a toddler though. And so I grew up in Detroit, and then my family moved to Warren, which is just outside of the city. And that's where I was primarily raised. And then after I went to Michigan State for undergrad. And then, like I said, I came to Chicago after graduating.
You studied theater at Michigan State?
I did study theater. I specifically pursued my Bachelor of Theater Arts, more broad, just because I felt like that was better suited for my interests. But I also studied economics, and I also studied African American and African studies, because in my young brain, I was like, this all is connected and it works. So it made for an interesting time in school.
It's Mars on the Hudson. It's Cheers Goes to Harlem.
You know, I remember like years ago, when I was in high school 1,000 years ago, I saw this play, I saw this movie.
It's The Brother from Another Planet.
Written and directed by Jim Jarmusch, and it starred Joe Morton, right?
Yes.
It was my first time seeing his work, and the movie really stuck with me because Joe Morton's performance, he had no lines, just internal dialogue, and just his presence. And it was something about seeing somebody with strong African features who looked like me that really had an impact.
Yeah.
So I had role models in my life, my father, grandfather, so on and so forth. Was there a performance or actor or actress that really had an impact on you because you saw yourself reflected in the work that's really impacted you as an artist?
And the Oscar goes to Lupita Nyong'o.
Oh, yes. Immediately, my brain goes to Lupita. I know when Lupita won that Oscar, I was in undergrad. Right. And it was like the first time I was like, whoa, what's happening? Because her identity has a Kenyan, just her deep, beautiful dark skin, and just like her presence globally, I was like, oh, this is someone who's closer to my age range, who has a really global perspective, is connected to the States, but also to the continent and the diaspora at large. And I felt like I have found someone. So like, right. I love watching her work. I feel like she's made a lot of interesting choices in her career. So yeah, Lupita.
So I have a question about the pronunciation, how you pronounce your name. You said Adia.
Adia. That's how most people say my name. Yes.
Yeah, I know a lawyer that's in the entertainment world that lives out west, and her name is Adia. And it's funny because, back in 2006, I did a short Columbia College student film, and there was a young Nigerian student that made the film, and he called the film Adia. And so for years, every time I see it, I'd say Adia.
Yes.
And she corrected me. She said, it's Adia.
Well, that's so interesting that you say that, because I prefer like the Americanized pronunciation of my name, but my family, like my Nigerian family or other people within the diaspora, they will say Adia. Like there is like a different like tonal inflection you can have with my name. But yeah, I usually introduce myself Adia, and that's typically what works. But I don't think you're wrong.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. It's a very unique name.
Thank
you. And the story is a short film, and it was about a grown man pays this other man money to marry his 14-year-old daughter, Adia, and take her home. Yeah. And the story is about her. And what's funny is the young lady that played Adia in the movie, she was grown, of course. She is the lead actress on Chicago Fire right now, Chicago PD.
Oh, it's such a small world. I love it.
I just saw you like on Somebody Somewhere.
Yes.
Right? Doing your stuff.
Thank you.
From your viewpoint, what are some of the differences between acting in theater and acting in film and television?
The differences is the level of intimacy. It just feels different. I think you can be in a small storefront theater in a play by yourself, and you have maybe like 10 people in the audience, and that level of intimacy, just like the very presence of the now, it feels different than when you have like 50 people in the room, multiple cameras, and the person you're connecting with is close. Well, depending on the staging, they can be close, and there's an intimacy in not having to have to project, and that you don't have to do too much. But it feels the presence of now feels different because you're cutting so many different times, you're adjusting for different elements. So I think I approach theater with more of a boldness in how I am physically in the space, regardless if I'm in a big theater or if I'm in an intimate space. Whereas on camera, not that I make myself small, it's just a more truncated version of myself that's like, I don't have to do too much, because how I'm communicating, I can just trust that my facial expressions and that my intentions will carry me there with my scene partner, and that's enough.
Yeah, they say the camera sees everything.
Everything.
So if you do nothing, it'll see it.
Yes. I've learned, which has been nice having, on camera experience to really practice that.
Yeah, talking about on camera experience, you've been on a couple of the Chicago shows, and one of them 3 times. You want to talk about that?
Yes, Chicago Med has paramedic Adia. I am also going to hopefully be on another episode of Chicago PD, which is cool to be in the universe as a paramedic. But when I was auditioning for that role as a paramedic, it was so interesting. I have been watching the Chicago Med series and never really considered how a role like that could be recurring. You could have a recurring co-star. And it was really exciting when I booked my first episode and realizing, they can just reach out, and hopefully if my availability works out, I can be brought back again. And not only in Chicago Med, but in the whole Chicago universe. So for Fire, for PD. And so that's been really exciting. They have their process built. They insert people in, and it was you guys are a moving wheel, and I'm just part of the spoke, and we're going to continue this. And I bring in, the guest star, and they take it from there. So I love it.
Did you go in and wow them and they said, let's have you back?
I would like to think that. I would like to think that that's what I did, which is why they brought me back. Yeah. Yeah.
You know what? I saw you in Schoolgirls, or the African meme play, Girls Meme Play. It was at the Goodman, right?
Yes, correct.
Yeah, and I was so glad to see that production. I mean, I love seeing people I know in shows, but also because I think I rented it because it was during the pandemic. Yes. And it was just great to see theater again. Like a lot of people, I had cabin fever, I was scared, I was like, whatever, right? What was that experience like during the show in the midst of COVID? What was that experience like?
Oh, man, it is. Thinking about that, it was such a whirlwind. The first iteration of the show, we couldn't even get through our tech process because we had to shut it down because of COVID. And that's actually when they made the quick decision to film it because they just didn't know like where we would be in the next 3 to 6 months. So our last like invited preview, we invited people to be in the audience, not knowing about COVID, like just how bad it could get, and just filmed it. And then they were able to edit it down and show it to everyone globally, which was great because I had family in Nigeria who were able to finally see me act. So that was awesome, just being able to get, a global response to a play. That's something about theater that sometimes frustrates me. It's just very like, if you can't see it during this time period in this certain location, that might just be the end of it. So it really, being a part of the streamed version of Schoolgirls just brought this presence of, there is a way to make theater more accessible if you're able to film it and communicate the story that way too. But then when we came back to do it in person, it just brought on a whole new life. This feeling of having survived the beginnings of COVID at the time, and it just deepened our the cast working relationship. And so I felt that our final product of the show was just on another level than we had originally intended. So
I want to go back to your film TV. You played Mamie Till.
Oh, yes.
An important historical figure. And you guys won a big award or something. Can you talk about that?
Yes. I played Mamie Till. I actually forgot about that until you mentioned it. That was a really interesting
story of Emmett Till.
Yeah, it was a really interesting process with Collaboration and NBC, and we took a very brief rehearsal period to put it together and like went onto the stage of NBC to really film it. It was a very quick and powerful process. I was very emotional through it all because you're reading like the text of the court case and everything. And eventually we were able to do it at the DuSable Museum for like a weekend. We actually presented it in the theater, and that was really emotionally charged because there are a lot of people in the audience who just had a stronger connection to it because like they know the family and the Chicago connection, everything. But I was very honored to play her, especially just thinking about my age. I'm in like my early 30s, and just thinking about what it means to eventually like be a mother and like experience your child going through this, and on a national scale, just the power she had to really give her testimony and to look the perpetrators in their eyes. I mean, like, they did this to my son, and just the choice of the open casket, it's really a big impact, just thinking about Black American history and also just thinking about our educational system. I think the work that we did, having young people in the audience, just thinking about theater as a vessel to also educate, especially with the way they are coming for our history in the classroom. So I felt very honored to be a part of it.
And I saw Marquis Simmons. I know he's a director, filmmaker.
Yes.
So you guys went from stage directly to film, or they filmed the stage production?
We filmed it first, actually, and then we presented it in the theater, which was, again, a whirlwind. So yeah, Marquis was part of the production crew. And again, like, we had a couple of days to put it together as a rehearsal for camera. And then once we had that set, we took more time to really deepen it so that we could do it inside of a theater. I had never done anything like that before. So it was cool to take one piece and do two mediums with it.
And you guys, the story walked away with an Emmy?
Yes, an Emmy, which again, like sometimes you go into a project not knowing the impact, and then you come out with an Emmy, which I know has been a huge thing for collaboration in terms of the work that they do in terms of activism and art. So yeah, extremely honored.
Are you doing voiceover work? You have a great speaking voice. Are you doing voiceover work?
I always get that. I do. I actually wish I could like get more auditions, but yes,
Right.
I have my microphone set up, like
That's what's
my
up.
mini booth. Yeah, I do try to practice. I try to listen more intentionally to like commercials and voiceovers. I'm like, what are they doing? What's that inflection? That's a good pause. So yes, I appreciate the compliment.
Are you still here in Chicago right now?
Yes, I'm still in Chicago.
Okay, do you have any plans like to move out to New York, LA?
You know, people ask me that, but I love Chicago. I think I will be in Chicago until life tells me not to. I did consider moving to New York or LA just to consider the different markets. And I have visited for like personal travels, for some like auditions here and there, but I feel most at home in Chicago. And so, yeah, I'm here.
Chi-town, baby, that's what's up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Chi-town. What I've found is that, with the access of the internet and all of these online auditions, you could live anywhere. I mean, the stars live where they want to live. Everybody doesn't live out there. They establish themselves and then move somewhere. But today, you can live here and make connections.
Yeah.
Generally, I found that your best opportunities are from our own peers, and then each peer goes off and does its thing, and we can all continue to grow in different directions and then come back together.
I agree.
I've noticed that. And so, I'm Chicago till the wheels fall off.
That's right.
Same here.
Till the wheels fall off.
I love it here. It's close to home too, so it's just very comforting being here. And self-tapes, like you're saying, like has really changed it. Like I don't feel the pressure to have to move anymore, but there is a consideration every now and then, but I love Chicago.
Right. How do you deal with the ebb and flow that sometimes that is the nature of the beast and deal with rejection? How do you deal with that?
That's a great question. I think prior to the pandemic, I was very much in the hustle of having like multiple base income jobs, just trying to fill in the gaps whenever I didn't have a creative opportunity that was keeping me moving forward. And I was blessed in most of those jobs that I had were like still grounded in the arts and theater world. Like I worked at Court Theater in the education department for a really long time. I worked at the League of Chicago Theaters when I first moved to Chicago. So it still kept me active, just maybe not in the performance wheel. And then when the pandemic came, because a lot of organizations and companies were affected, I took that as an opportunity to pursue other interests that I have and just thought about like my experience of learning about economics in undergrad and my love for African American history and my love for like documentaries and different storytelling. And so I was fortunate enough to get a job at Human Rights Watch. So that is currently my base income job. And I work with our Chicago landowners on the human rights work that we do globally, but also like locally in Chicago. And we used to have a film festival, and I used to participate in the film festival, watching movies and documentaries about human rights. And where we participated in Expo Chicago, so the intersection of visual arts and human rights. So I was able to like lean on other skills and interests that still kept me connected to storytelling and people's identities, which is what I love to talk about and have stories about. And so that is what's keeping those gaps closed for me whenever the art world is, slow.
Ooh la la. Yeah.